Life and works of Jose. Jose Rizal was born in 1861 to Francisco Rizal Mercado y Alejandro and Teodora Alonso Yolanda y Cuentos in the town of Calamba in Laguna Province. He had 9 sisters and 1 brother. His parents were leaseholders of a hacienda and an accompanying rice farm by a Dominican. Rizal apparently came from Chinese-Filipino descent. Francisco Mercado y Cinco. Francisco Mercado was born in Biñan, Laguna on May 11, 1818. He took up philosophy and Latin in Colegio de San Jose in Manila. After his parents' death, he moved to Calamba. There he became a tenant farmer of a Dominican-owned hacienda and later became one of the town's wealthiest men. He was able to establish private library and keep carriage. The name Francisco was in high honor in Laguna, for it he had belonged to a famous sea captain who had been given the encomienda of Bay for his service. Rizal's mother, Teodora Alonso, came from the clan of Lacandula, known as the last Malay king of Tondo. She was also traced to Eugenio Ursua, whose ancestor came from Japan. She was the second daughter of Lorenzo Alberto, also who was former representative of Spanish Cortes and Brigada de Cuentos, whose parents were Manuel de Cuentos, a well-known family in Pangasinan, and Regina Ursua, who was the daughter of Benigna and Eugene Ursua. As already noted, Teodora Alonso had a trace of Japanese ancestry. Moreover, she was a Ilocano, Tagalog, Chinese, Spanish descent, combining the parental and maternal ancestry. Therefore, Jose Rizal was born with Malay, Chinese, Japanese, and Spanish linguists. In his blood, Teodora Alonso died on August 16, 1911 at the age of 84. Rizal's surname, Domingo Lamco, the great-great-grandfather of Jose Rizal, decided to use Mercado as his surname in 1731 to match his profession being a merchant. He used this surname from 1731 to November 11, 1849, as soon as Governor-General Narcisco Claveria posed a regulation that requires them to make use of Spanish family names. Meanwhile, for Don Francisco Mercado Rizal's father, Rizal was used, which means a new pasture of green field. Rizal's education studies in Manila, studies in Europe. Early education in Calamba and Biñan. At the age of 3, Rizal learned the alphabet from his mother. At the age of 5, while learning to read and write, Rizal already shown inclinations to be an artist. He outstanded his family and relatives by his pencil drawing and sketches and by his moldings of clay. At the age of 8, Rizal wrote a Tagalog poem, Sa Aking Mga Kabata, the theme of which revolves on the love of one's language. Early education in Calamba and Biñan. Rizal's parents employed private tutors to give him lessons at home. The first was Maestro Celestino and the second Maestro Lucas Padua. Later, an old man named Leon Monroy, a former classmate of Rizal's father, became his tutor. This teacher lived at the Rizal's home, instructed Rizal in Spanish and Latin. Unfortunately, he didn't live long. He died 5 months later. After Monroy's death, Rizal's parents decided to send their gifted son to a private school in Biñan. First day in Biñan School. Pasiano enrolled Rizal to the school of Maestro Giustiano Caquino Cruz. Rizal met the bully, Pedro. Rizal was angry at this bully for making fun of him during the conversation with the teacher, challenged Pedro to a fight. Rizal, having learned the art of wrestling from his athletic Tio Manuel, defeated the bigger boy. After class, a classmate named Andres Salandanan challenged him to an arm wrestling match. Rizal, having the weaker arm, lost and nearly cracked his head on the sidewalk. Best student in school. In academic studies, Rizal beat all Biñan boys. He surpassed them all in Spanish, Latin, and other subjects. They were all jealous of his intellectual superiority. That day, wickedly squealed to the teacher whenever Rizal had a fight outside the school, and even told lies to discredit him before the teacher's eyes. Consequently, the teacher had to punish Rizal. He received many whippings and strokes from the free roll. Rare was the day when he was not stretched to the bench for whipping or punished with 5 or 6 blows on the open arm. Education in Manila. Ateneo Municipal de Manila. Bachelor of Arts degree in 1877 at the age of 16. Graduated as one of the 9 students declared sobresaliente. Continued his education to obtain a degree in land surveying and assessor. Ateneo Municipal de Manila. Rizal was a member of Academy of Spanish Literature and Academy of Natural Science. Wrote his first poem, Mi Primera Inspiración, My First Inspiration, which was dedicated to his mother on her birthday. He also wrote Through Education, Our Motherland Receives Light, and The Intimate Alliance Between Religion and Good Education, which showed the importance of religion in education. Education in Manila. University of Santo Tomas. Studied philosophy and letters during his first year. Shifted to medicine specialization in ophthalmology when he found out that his mother was going blind. University of Santo Tomas. Rizal was unhappy at this Dominican institution of higher learning because 1. The Dominican professor was hostile to him. 2. The Filipino students were racially discriminated against by the Spaniards. 3. The method of instruction was obsolete and repressive. After finishing the 4th year of his medical course, Rizal decided to study in Spain. He could no longer endure the rampant bigotry and discrimination of hostility in the University of Santo Tomas. Education in Europe. Traveled alone to Europe, Madrid in May 1882. Continued his studies in medicine at the Universidad Central de Madrid. Degree of Licenciate in Medicine in 1884. Degree of Philosophy and Letters in 1885. Spain as a realization. It was a venue for realizing Rizal's dreams. He finished his study in Madrid, and this to him was the realization of the bigger part of his ambition. His vision brought him to the point of awakening in him in understanding of human nature, sparking in him that realization that his people needed him. It must have been this sentiment that prompted him to pursue during the reorganizational meeting of Círculo Hispano Filipino to be one of its activities. The publication of a book which all members will contribute papers in the various aspects of condition of Philippines life. Spain as a realization. The proposal for the book was unanimously approved, but afterwards difficulties and objections were raised, and a number of gentlemen stood up and refused to discuss the matter any further in 1884. Rizal decided not to press the issue any longer. Although the book was never written, the next year Pedro Paterno published his Ninay, a novel subtitled Costumbres Filipinas, Philippines Customs, those partly fulfilling the original purpose of Rizal's plan. The idea of writing a novel grew on him. Later, he decided to write and work hard for No Limit Tangerine. He never told anyone about it until it was finished, though some of his companions knew what he was doing. He wrote half of the novel in Madrid, a quarter of it in Paris, and the rest in Germany. Education in Europe. University of Paris, France. University of Heidelberg, Germany. Earned a second doctorate, educated as member of the Berlin Ethnological Society and the Berlin Anthropological Society under the patronage of famous pathologists of Randolph Virchow. 25-year-old Rizal completed in 1887 his eye specialization under the renewed Prof. Otto Becker and Heidelberg. left Heidelberg a poem, Alas Flores del Heidelberg, both an evocation and a prayer for the welfare of his native land and the unification of common values between East and West. Rizal's life in Europe. Jose Rizal lived in Europe for 10 years. He could converse in more than 10 different tongues. Excellence of martial arts, fencing, sculpture, painting, teaching, anthropology, and journalism, among other things. During his European sojourn, he also began to write novels. Rizal finished his first book, Noli Me Tangere, while living in Wilhelmsfield with the Reverend Karl Ulmer. From Hong Kong, Rizal traveled to Macau and Japan before going to America, entering San Francisco, California in April 1888. He visited the states of Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Nebraska, Illinois, and New York. He jotted down his observation of landscape in his diary. Rizal arrived in England in 1888. Rizal is the national hero of the Philippines. He was the one who led the Filipinos to start revolution against the Spanish government to attain freedom to gain control of the country. Through that, other Filipinos was motivated to get the freedom. They started many revolts against the Spanish government. On December 6, 1896, the trial of Dr. Jose Rizal by the Spanish military court of sedition, rebellion, and conspiracy began. This leads to his execution and martyrdom. He pleaded his innocence, but he was still convicted on all 3 charges of rebellion, sedition, and conspiracy, and sentenced to death. Jose Prostacio Rizal Mercado y Alonso Yolanda was a Filipino nationalist and polymath during the tail end Spanish colonial period of the Philippines. Cause of death: execution by firing squad. Espoused by Josephine Bracken. Died in December 30, 1896 at the age of 35.